Hello everyone and welcome to this new video. My name is Lotta, I'm the Hoarding Puffin, and today I'm going to walk you through the process of making my newest Critical Role cosplay, none other than Lady Vex'ahlia. I will be honest, I've kind of been losing interest in what is going on with Critical Role currently. The only thing I might be interested in seeing is the few things where Brennan Lee Mulligan is in there, because I really like that guy. I think he's really fun. But I don't know why, but the new campaign isn't grasping me. So I've had this kind of Critical Role shaped hole in my day-to-day life because I wasn't watching 4 to 6 hours of Critical Role each week. So very maturely, after I finished the Magnus Archives and didn't have anything else to procrastinate with, I decided to fill that hole with rewatching Vox Machina. So I filled the Critical Role shaped hole with more Critical Role, and I had kind of put off my Vex'ahlia cosplay. I had designed a thing and another thing and another thing, and I wasn't happy with any of them. So at some point I just went like, well, I'm not gonna do it. I can't find a way to make this cosplay that I find worth the time and effort I put into each of my cosplays, because I hand sew and hand bead and hand embroider everything. So, you know, it didn't quite feel worth the effort, and so I just didn't put in the effort. Then I rewatched the show and went like, oh, actually, I really want to cosplay her now. This has never changed. I love her. I think she's amazing. I adore her. And after watching a lot of videos from my favorite sewists, I stumbled upon this video. And impulsively downloaded the pattern and thought, well, I can try that out. Seems easy enough. Well, it wasn't necessarily easy, but the shape it gives is so... oh god. I love the shape and silhouette of that type of pattern and bodice. And granted, it is meant for a corset, well, stays, so you know, it should have boning, it should be worn underneath clothing. I found that slightly altered, and by slightly altered I mean not putting any boning and instead using decorative fabric. It actually works really well as a bodice. And I think that was what my costume design was lacking, because the previous attempts had all been dresses and they just didn't work for how I personally envision Vex'ahlia. But I think I now have kind of a concept with which I can actually make her costume work, which is I'm going to take that 18th century pattern and I'm gonna turn it into a bodice and put little kind of floops, kind of like an aestheticized version of paint sleeves. And yeah, let's see how that goes. Let's go! So I chose a fabric I still had in my stash, which is this sort of shiny cotton, just a brown cotton, a slightly heavier weight. I had this left over from my Caleb coat, which I didn't do a video on, but I just traced my pattern on there with chalk. And I chose to not have the front be single panels as the pattern actually wants you to, because I wanted embroidery on the front. There's not going to be lacing, so I made it as one continuous piece by just flipping that pattern piece. Technically the pattern does come with a seam allowance, but I did cut that off so I could add my own seam allowance, because works better for me personally. And then I pinned everything together, just on my chalk marks, matched them up and pinned it together. And sewed it, which I didn't film because the light was terrible. And then I also didn't film putting in my lining layer, which is this horrendous shade of orange cotton, which is actually my original Keyleth cloak reused.
I don't remember why I didn't film this, but oh god, I didn't realize how glaring the orange looks on camera. It's a lot more muted in real life, I promise.
Quick thing in between. I now have the like sewing and lining portion of Vex'ahlia's bodice done, which is exciting. But now I need to do something that I don't love, which is making eyelets. And I don't have any metal grommets or eyelets just sitting around, so what I'm going to do is my other thing, which is the more historical one, which, you know, technically is my jam, but it is tedious and complicated. I'm gonna hand make them. I'm going to hand sew the eyelets and just frame them in embroidery thread, which, yeah, that's not the most long and living thing, but I don't have another option. I don't have grommets, and I want to get that part done today, ideally, and I don't want to have to order them online and find out that I end up having the same problem as I had with my Caduceus bodice that's when I did use metal ones, and they were too big for the 2 layers of fabric I had, and even when I inserted an additional strip of fabric, it was still too little, and I ended up having to literally hot glue them down. My phone just buddinged in the background, and I'd like to avoid that, so hand lacing it will be. I'll get an upper arm workout out of this. That's the only positive I can see. So I just realized that the footage of me making all my hand-stitched eyelets is gone. I don't know how they weren't processed correctly. The footage is not usable. It doesn't work. And subsequently, I've also lost most of the footage of me making the straps. But luckily, I have this little bit left to stitch, so I suppose I'm going to film this now. But yeah, I basically just cut and hand stitched the eyelets. I basically used the same method that you use if you hand stitch a buttonhole, but round. And then, because I wasn't sure on the stability, I ended up using seconds glue and just put it on the back side, which is something... I know I talked about how I didn't want to glue this, and I really didn't, but I didn't feel like the thread was going to hold up. And because this is a costume piece that won't require regular washing, and because I made the eyelets very sparse and quite big, I think it should be okay. I really hope it's going to be okay. But yeah, I finished stitching up the first strap. I haven't attached it yet. But they're just very small. They're just meant to hold it up and provide some shaping of the actual bodice, because technically the lacing is enough to hold it in place. So this is just some extra security, and also it looks weird if you have these floppies at the side that don't go anywhere. So we're gonna keep stitching this and then attach them to the bodice. And then we can finally move on to the really fun part, which is the embroidery and decorating.
The straps were easy. It's just essentially stitching together a tube of fabric. I wish there was more to it, but there isn't. And then I just stitched it onto the spot on the bodice where they're supposed to go.
Okay, I ended up deciding to do the embroidery first and then the sleeves, because frankly, I can't decide on how exactly I want to do the sleeves. I can't decide if I just want to have my undershirt show, or if I want to do like the pains. So I'm pausing that for now and not thinking about it, and I decided to work on the embroidery first, because there I already have a concept of what I want to do. So I have this little bear head. I embroidered this over a year ago. I embroidered this, and then I made the like hog head that I made for my Technoblade cosplay. And this is very much inspired by like Michelle Carragher's embroidery, which truthfully that was what got me into costuming like back in, oh gosh, 2015 I think, sometime a while ago. That was like the beginning of baby Puffin starting out in cosplay and costuming and getting interested in it, not actually doing it yet. But I made this little bear head that looks a bit like Trinket. So, and that was actually kind of the whole thing. I wanted that to be like a centerpiece, like here on the bodice. And I figured I'd just do a lot of vines around it. So I drew out the pattern. Don't like kill me for this. I know this is like a debate of, oh, should we paint on this? And normally I don't like to paint on my clothing, but this is cosplay. This is not clothing. This is not an item that's going to be regularly washed, so I don't have to worry about it bleeding. So I just used a metallic marker and I drew out the vine lines. And don't worry, these will all be embroidered over. You won't be able to see this pinkish liner. And then I'm going to put the head as a centerpiece, and so now I'm gonna go through my embroidery material stash and see that I can find things to do the vines with. I know I want to incorporate blue, because that is kind of the signature color of Vex'ahlia, even though that makes very little sense with her being, you know, mainly a ranger, you know, hiding in the forest stuff. But, you know, it's D&D and it's fantasy, and she is a lady at the end of it all, so, you know, you can go a bit flashier. So I still wanted to incorporate her blue, especially because I also have the blue cloak that I'm going to incorporate. And that was also made for techno. And because the trousers are going to brown and then the bodice is all brown, I thought some blue accents in the embroidery couldn't hurt, but I also want to do brown. But I don't actually have a lot of embroidery floss left over in brown. Specifically, this is all of the brown embroidery floss I have left. And I presently want to do this, like, I want to get this done. I don't want to wait to have to order new embroidery floss. So I'm going to go through my stash of things, because I am a hoarder, it is in the name, so I should have a lot of things I can use. I know I have a lot of blue left, because I over-ordered my blue when I made Caleb, only to then decide to do minimal embroidery. So I have blue left. I'm gonna look what I can find. This is the embroidery stash. There's a big box over here that houses a lot of small things. We have two pieces of red ribbon, which those are left over from techno. This was an experimental thing for Caduceus that I didn't end up using, but I was like considering doing this like moss shoulder pads, basically, to have mushrooms mounted onto, which I'm still a fan of, so that's why I kept it. And it's basically just, somewhere in there is fleece, and then I just covered it in different fabrics and embroidery and textures, and I love this. This is one of my favorite things I've made, and I need to use this somehow, and I'm going to. I will find a costume where I can use this. I was thinking maybe making a cloak that's like all mossy. I don't know, I like mossy things, and I want to look like I'm wearing the forest's clothing. We have more things there. We have a lunar moth that I didn't use, but all of those things don't scream Vex'ahlia. They're very much the wrong color. One of the beetles for Caduceus that I didn't end up using. But these two boxes, which this is technically sewing thread, but it's in specific colors I don't tend to use. I like to get the big spools for sewing. So these tiny ones, I've got these ages ago when I first started sewing. So these I use for embroidery a lot, and we also have like metallic-y, gold and silver, which I don't think I will use for this, just because metallic-y is difficult to use. Got some mossy green here. And then again, I know this is messy. It normally is more carefully put in there, it's just I haven't had time to reorganize this, so it's a bit messy. Also, this does not belong here, but this is a five loop finger braid I love making those. I need to make more of those. But yeah, in here I just have a lot of technical, normal embroidery floss. So we have the leftover brown. And then we got a bunch of different blues and varying stages of completeness of the spool. But yeah, we have blues. We've got these two, and then we get some darker blue that is horribly tangled with the orange. There we get the dark blue. And I had a different shade of blue somewhere that I'm going to look for. I think that might be in my desk somewhere. But yeah, we have blue. And I snipped off these shoelaces that I had, and I wanted to reuse these. And I'm going to do a thing that I've seen, Mariah Petty has done something like this, and it's inspired by Michelle Carragher. So I'll basically stitch those to the bodice and then put other thread over top and do detailing like that. So we'll do these for the base vines and then brown and blue detailing. And I think that might actually be really, really cool.
So I basically just used some brown like sewing thread and a heavy set needle to stitch down and also wrap around the brown laces that I'd found in my stash. And I just followed my pattern like that. There's nothing special to it. And then this head of trinket I embroidered ages ago, and I just put that on there. And I wish I could tell you why I originally embroidered it on blue fabric. I can't tell you, I don't remember. There's some blue bits peeking out. Honestly, I think it's fine, but yeah. Wouldn't make that choice today anymore. I would just have embroidered it on brown fabric. I don't know why I didn't. Then I used some lighter embroidery floss, and I essentially just wrapped it around the cords, and occasionally I did pierce through the fabric to make it more secure so it wouldn't wiggle around as much. And then I just added a bunch of little feathery blue leaves in 2 different shades of blue. There's nothing exciting to say really about this embroidery. It's simple, but it works.